Welcome back. 8:44. Portions of a grand jury report on the Georgia presidential 2020 elections have now been released, and that report from the special grand jury was investigating whether Donald Trump and his allies interfered in the Georgia election to overturn the results. And here's some key findings from that report. It found jurors feared witnesses may have lied under oath, committing perjury, and that no widespread fraud took place in Georgia, rejecting arguments made by Trump and his supporters. So what does this all mean as far as any indictments, and why was only a partial text of that report released? Joining us to help explain is political science professor Stephen Caliendo with North Central College. Good morning, Professor. Good to see you again.
Good morning. It's good to see you as well.
Okay, so let's talk about what was the most damaging, or at least the most important things that you think we learned from this.
It's so difficult because we don't know all that much more than we knew before, but we learned a couple of things. We learned that there were more than 70 witnesses over a almost 6-month period, and that the conclusion of this special grand jury was that some of them they suspect that they lied. And if they lied about something material while they were under oath, that's perjury. We don't know which witnesses lied. We don't know who. And we don't know, what information those witnesses were bringing about. We also know that they found that there was no widespread election fraud, which is just the latest finding in this regard. The January 6th committee talked about this a lot. Lots of court cases at the time. No widespread election fraud in Georgia.
Okay, let's talk about this, because one of the key issues a lot of people were kind of focusing on is that now famous phone call by the former president on January 2nd, 2021, in which he told the Georgia Secretary of State that he needed to find more than 11,000 votes to overcome Biden's lead in that state. Did we learn anything else about this conversation from this?
We didn't learn anything yesterday from that, but we will learn more when the full report is released and/or when there are indictments that are handed down. But another grand jury is going to have to be put together to hand down any indictments. This particular grand jury had specific instructions to do the investigation, but not to issue indictments. And so they disbanded without any indictments. Their recommendations that the prosecutor then moves forward with other indictments, and we have to see how that plays out.
Okay, so let's talk about that. They're recommending indictments. It was not specific to who those indictments should be geared towards. At this point, do you think, with what we know, that indictments might soon follow, not only against the former president or maybe some of his allies?
Absolutely, and I think that's what the real interesting decision is going to be from the prosecutor's office, is how they go about it. Are they going to just charge individuals for particular crimes, or are they going to look more broadly and look at a racketeering sort of arrangement? Was there a conspiracy? Was there an organization to commit crimes in terms of overturning the 2020 election with respect to the Georgia electors in particular? And so what the prosecutor's office decides in the next few days and weeks will tell us a lot more about where this is going.
Oh, so you think it could be soon. Okay, let's talk about this, though, because, still a lot of questions remain because only a portion of that report was released. Do you think it's eventually going to be released in its entirety?
I'm curious about that as well, because I thought that what was indicated in what was released was a recommendation that the full report be released. What we got yesterday was simply the introduction and the conclusions, but we didn't get anything in the middle. My guess is that there must have been some reason to hurry those findings for those of us in the news who want to talk about it. But a good portion of this is going to have to be redacted before it gets made public. If there's not going to be indictments against certain individuals, or that it's not public who testified in this grand jury, then there's going to have to be redacted information. And when you're talking about 6 months of work, that's a lot of additional labor.
How long do you think before we hear anything else about this report?
Oh, I wish I could tell you. I want to know this afternoon, right? We're also curious.
Right.
But I can't imagine it'll be too much longer, partly because the pressure is that Donald Trump has indicated that he's running for re-election in 2024. We're less than a year away from the Iowa caucuses and the New Hampshire primaries and the South Carolina primaries. And so the elections, the race is about to heat up. And I think the American public needs to know where the former president stands with respect to these charges.
Professor Stephen Caliendo with North Central College, as always, a pleasure to have you on this morning. Thanks for joining us.
It's good to see you. I hope you have a good day.
You too. Enjoy